Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going all in on weight loss.
Yeah, weight loss.
Our listener this time is feeling a little overwhelmed, right?
Yeah, they are. There's just so much info out there.
And they want something, sustainable, something that really works long term. So they sent us this podcast episode called The Ultimate Weight Loss Plan, Tips You Need to Know. Ultimate, huh? Big promises.
Well, I think it's smart to be skeptical. Like you said, there's a lot of information out there.
Yeah.
And not all of it's good. But, I will say this podcast we're diving into today, it does start off strong.
Yeah.
They make a good point about why a lot of these plans, they just don't work. It all comes down to expectations.
Unrealistic expectations.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so easy to fall for those, like, lose 10 pounds in 3 days. It's like, sign me up. But
Right.
I remember I tried this juice cleanse thing once. Disaster. I was so hungry. I was lightheaded. I don't know what I was thinking.
Oh, I bet. These extreme diets,
Yeah.
they set you up to fail. And they could really mess with your metabolism.
It's no wonder people get stuck in that all-or-nothing cycle. One slip-up, and it's back to pizza.
Yep. Pizza for the win.
Pizza spiral. I know it well. But okay, it sounds like before we even dive into, strategies, this podcast wants us to take a minute, right? Reflect a bit.
Yeah, take a good look at our own experiences, I think. What's worked for you in the past, and just as importantly, what hasn't. And those triggers, what sends you running for the comfort food. Figure out those patterns, and then you can start to build a plan that actually fits into your life, not some cookie-cutter thing.
Okay, self-awareness, step 1. Got it. Now, the podcast gets into these SMART goals. I'm intrigued, but what does SMART even stand for?
SMART goals are a great framework. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Time-bound, okay.
Yeah, it's a way to set yourself up for success, really.
So for weight loss, thinking
Yeah.
about our listener here, what would a SMART goal even sound like?
Okay, so remember, it's got to be relevant to you, your why, So instead of just saying lose weight, which is super vague, how about lose 5 pounds in the next month by walking 3 times a week and swapping out sugary drinks for water? So you've got a specific target. It's measurable, it's doable, and it connects to our listeners' goal of having more energy to play with your kids.
Oh, I love that. It's not just about a number on a scale. It's about how you feel, right? Being able to keep up with your kids. That's awesome. But okay, the podcast then gets into nutrition. And this is where things usually get complicated.
It really doesn't have to be. This podcast, they keep it simple. They talk about, a caloric deficit.
Calorie deficit. Is that some complicated math I have to do?
No, not at all. It's actually very simple. Think of it like this. Your body, to function, it needs a certain amount of calories every day, right?
Yeah.
If you eat more than that, well, you store the extra energy as fat. So to lose weight, you got to kind of flip that equation. Burn more than you consume.
Okay, so it's all about that balance. Calories in, calories out. But I'm guessing the podcast isn't suggesting we all become calorie counting fanatics.
Not at all. They talk a lot about shifting to whole foods.
Okay, yeah.
Lean protein, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, the good stuff that gives you the nutrients you need.
Okay, that sounds delicious. Give me all the fruits and veggies. Nature's candy, I like to call it. But what about, office snacks? Those are dangerous. They seem to multiply overnight.
Oh, yeah, they are a pitfall for sure. Those are what the podcast calls empty calories.
Right.
They taste good, but there's no real nutritional value there.
Guilty as charged. Any tips on how to resist those?
I think mindfulness is key. Before you grab that cookie, ask yourself, am I really hungry or am I just bored or stressed?
Yeah.
And sometimes a glass of water or a quick walk around the office can really help with those cravings.
Yeah, sometimes your body's just thirsty, not actually hungry.
That's a good tip. Okay, well, let's talk exercise. This is the part where I personally sometimes lose motivation. You and me both. But good news, this podcast, they don't advocate for those crazy hard workouts. It's more about finding things you enjoy, something you can keep doing, something sustainable.
And they mentioned the minimum recommendation is just 150 minutes a week.
Yeah, it's not that much when you break it down.
20 minutes a day. That's totally doable.
Totally. And it doesn't have to be, going to the gym. It could be dancing, swimming, playing with your kids, anything that gets you moving.
I love that. It's about finding things that spark joy, not dread. They mentioned dancing. I've always wanted to try Zumba. What about you, listener? What gets you moving?
There's so many options. The key is to just find something that fits your lifestyle and your interests.
Okay, so we've got nutrition, exercise, but there are 2 other pieces of the puzzle here, and I have a feeling I know where this is going.
Sleep and stress.
Bingo.
Yeah. These are so often overlooked, but they have a huge impact on weight.
Okay, so tell me more about that. What's the connection there?
Okay, well, think about when you're sleep deprived, right? Your body actually produces more of this hormone called ghrelin. It's the feed me hormone,
Oh, no.
and less of the hormone leptin, which is the one that tells you when you're full.
So I'm basically setting myself up for constant cravings if I don't sleep enough.
Pretty much. And stress, well, it does the same thing to your hormones. Throws them out of whack. It triggers the release of cortisol. And cortisol can actually lead to more belly fat storage.
Oh, man. Double whammy. All right, so I'm officially convinced. Prioritizing sleep, managing stress, these aren't optional, it sounds like.
Not if you want sustainable weight loss now.
But any tips from the podcast on how to actually do that? That's the hard part.
They recommend starting small,
Yeah.
baby steps. For sleep, try a consistent bedtime routine, a warm bath, maybe reading a book, listening to some calming music, anything to unwind.
That sounds so relaxing. I actually started meditating recently, and it's been, oh my gosh, it's like a reset button for my mind. What about you, listener? What are your go-to stress busters?
There are so many options.
Yeah.
Yoga, journaling, spending time in nature. Find what works for you and make it a habit.
I love how this is all coming together. It's not about some crazy diet or punishing workout. It's about, well-being overall.
It's a lifestyle, really.
Yeah. And that brings us to another important point the podcast makes. Consistency.
Yes. Back to that all or nothing thinking. This is where it can really trip you up.
Right. It's not about being perfect. It's about those habits, those little things you do day after day that add up. The podcast even suggests meal prepping to set yourself up for success. That used to seem so overwhelming to me.
Oh, I know. It sounds like a lot of work. But it doesn't have to be. Think of it as a way to make healthy choices easier. Like, open your fridge and there's delicious, already portioned meal ready to go. No more last-minute takeout temptations.
Okay, that does sound appealing, I have to admit. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've talked about why weight loss plans fail, those SMART goals, and how nutrition, exercise, even sleep and stress, it all plays a role.
We've also talked about how important it is to find what works for you, listening to your body, and, getting support when you need it. It's a journey.
Yeah, it is. But this is just the beginning.
Exactly.
In part 2, we're going to get into some of those weight loss myths. It's time to bust some myths.
I love it. Myths busted. Get ready.
So grab a snack, a healthy one, of course, and we'll see you back here soon for part 2 of your personalized deep dive.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Ready to tackle some weight loss myths?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it. Time to separate fact from fiction.
I love it. And this podcast, they really call out some of the big ones. Like, first up, the idea that all carbs are bad.
Oh, carbs get such a bad rap.
They do. But I think this podcast is going to set the record straight. It's not about eliminating carbs entirely. It's more about understanding there are good carbs and bad carbs.
Okay, so tell me more about that. What makes a carb bad?
So, refined carbs like white bread and sugary treats, those are the ones that get digested super fast. And they can lead to those energy spikes and crashes.
Ooh, so those are the culprits behind my afternoon slump.
Probably. But those complex carbs, the ones you find in whole grains, fruits, vegetables, those are your friends. They're packed with fiber, nutrients, and they digest slowly so they give you lasting energy and keep you feeling full longer.
Got it. Okay. So it's about making those swaps, right? Like instead of white rice, I could try quinoa. Or maybe instead of my sugary cereal, I have oatmeal with berries.
Exactly. Small changes can make a big difference.
Love it. Myth busted. Okay, what's next?
Another big one, the starvation myth. A lot of people think to lose weight fast, you have to drastically cut calories.
Oh, the starvation trap. Been there, done that. It is not fun. And my metabolism basically went into hibernation.
Your body is smarter than you think. When you restrict calories like that, it goes into survival mode, slows everything down to conserve energy.
It's like a self-defense mechanism, huh?
Exactly. And, plus, when you do that, you're setting yourself up for cravings. And then you know what happens? You end up overeating.
The binge, it's not a fun cycle. So it's about finding that balance, right? Nourishing your body, not punishing it. Okay, what else? What other myths do we need to debunk?
This one might resonate with you. The myth that you have to spend hours at the gym to see results.
Oh, I used to believe that one for sure. I thought more was always better, but, sometimes less is more.
Exactly. This podcast reminds us that it's about quality, not quantity when it comes to exercise. Short, effective workouts can be just as beneficial as those long, drawn-out sessions.
I am all about time-efficient exercise. I'm picturing myself like squeezing in a quick HIIT workout during my lunch break.
There you go. It's amazing what you can accomplish in like 20 minutes.
It's true, and it's more likely I'll actually do it if it fits into my schedule.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of things that sound too good to be true, let's talk about the supplement myth.
Yeah, the weight loss industry loves those quick fixes. Magic pills to melt away fat.
Sign me up, right? But I have a feeling there's a catch.
There usually is. While some supplements might have a tiny little impact, they can't replace healthy eating and exercise. Sorry to say.
And it's always a good idea to check with your doctor before starting any new supplement, right? Just to be safe. Okay, so we've busted some major myths here. But even armed with this knowledge, staying motivated on this journey can be tough. Any tips from the podcast on keeping that momentum going?
One thing they emphasize is tracking your progress.
Yeah.
Whether it's a journal, an app, or just a calendar, Seeing those small wins can really keep you motivated.
Visual reminders. Love those. It's like a high five to yourself.
Exactly. And don't forget to celebrate those non-scale victories too.
What do you mean by non-scale?
Like, did you choose a salad over fries? Did you make it to that yoga class? Those are all wins worth celebrating.
Yes. Adding celebrate non-scale victories to my to-do list. And what about community? I feel like that's so important too, having support.
Definitely. Having a support system, whether it's a workout buddy, a friend, family member, even an online community, can make a big difference.
Yeah.
We all need a cheerleader, right? Someone who gets it. Someone who reminds us we're not alone.
Uh-huh.
Okay, final tip for the podcast on staying motivated.
Remember that why, that deeper motivation we talked about in part 1. Why is this journey important to you? What will achieving your goals allow you to do? Visualize that.
Oh, that's good. It's about connecting with the bigger picture, remembering why you started. I love how this deep dive is going way beyond just the surface level.
It's about mindset.
It is. And that's so important for long-term change.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can't believe we're already at the end of part 2, but guess what? There's more.
There is.
In part 3, we're going to go even deeper. We're going to venture into the world of the psychology of weight loss.
Ooh, getting deep. This is where it gets really interesting. We'll be talking about how our emotions, our thoughts, our beliefs, all of that can affect our eating habits, our body image, and ultimately our success.
This is getting good. I'm hooked. So get ready to explore the inner workings of your mind. Uncover even more empowering insights that can help you create a weight loss journey that feels authentic and fulfilling.
All right, can't wait. See you back here soon for the final chapter of our weight loss adventure. All right, welcome back to the final part of our weight loss deep dive. I am so ready to explore this next layer with you, the psychology of it all.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? You can have all the knowledge, all the strategies, but if you don't address the mental and emotional stuff, well, those old patterns, they tend to creep right back in.
It's so true. It's like, I know I should go for a walk after dinner, but then I end up on the couch scrolling through my phone. Like, what is happening in my brain?
The podcast really emphasizes that we use food to cope with emotions, stress, boredom, even happiness. So recognizing those triggers, that's huge. That's a big step towards breaking free.
So instead of just focusing on what I'm eating, it's about the why. Am I actually hungry, or am I trying to soothe something else?
Exactly. It's about creating that mindful relationship with food. And this podcast even talks about thinking of food as nourishment, not punishment.
Oh, I like that. It's a total mindset shift. Instead of feeling guilty for eating a cookie, I can appreciate the joy it brings and then, move on.
Yes, because that guilt, it can really sabotage your progress. And the podcast talks about how a restrictive mindset often backfires. It can actually lead to binge eating. It's like you're setting yourself up to fail.
Ugh, it's so true. I've been there, telling myself I'm being good all day
Right.
by restricting, only to end up overeating later.
Yeah.
Not sustainable.
Not at all. It's about balance, that middle ground where you're nourishing yourself without deprivation. And I think that's where self-compassion comes in.
Ooh, self-compassion. That sounds way better than self-criticism, which I'm definitely more familiar with. So how do we cultivate more of that, especially on this journey?
Well, the podcast, they suggest treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a friend. We all have setbacks. We all make mistakes. It's okay. Learn from it and move on. No beating yourself up.
It's like that saying, progress, not perfection, which I think is a great segue to celebrating those non-scale victories.
Absolutely. Did you make it to your workout even though you were tired? Did you choose the healthier snack option? Those are wins. Celebrate them.
It's easy to just focus on that number on the scale, but it's about all those little steps along the way.
And those steps, they add up. They create that lasting change, like building a house. You start with a strong foundation, brick by brick. You don't just put up the roof first.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of building a strong foundation, the podcast also talks about support. Having that, can really make a difference.
So important. Having people in your corner, people who get it. It could be friends, family, and online community even. Sharing that journey makes a big difference.
It does. We all need a cheerleader, someone who reminds us we're not alone and that we can do this.
Exactly. And, as we wrap up this deep dive, the podcast leaves us with a really interesting question.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the question?
What if instead of focusing only on the scale, we paid more attention to how we feel in our bodies?
Ooh, that is a great question. Shifting the focus from external measurements to our internal experience.
Exactly. What if we prioritized feeling energized, strong, confident?
That's beautiful. It's not about shrinking ourselves. It's about honoring our bodies, treating them with respect.
And I think that's a perfect note to end on. This deep dive, it hasn't just been about losing weight. It's been about understanding ourselves better, our habits, our relationship with food.
It really has. We've explored the science, the strategies, the psychology. We've busted myths, brainstormed ideas, and hopefully helped you create a plan that feels right for you.
And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Be patient with yourself, celebrate your wins,
Yeah.
and never be afraid to reach out for support.
You've got this. Thanks for joining us on this amazing journey, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.